I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America, because there is no victory in winning for half of America. So tonight, with faith and devotion, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States.
Former President Donald Trump speaking to an enthusiastic crowd very late last night at the Republican National Convention, giving his speech, its first one, really, since he was nearly assassinated at that Pennsylvania rally on Saturday. So joining us now, two former Republican presidential candidates, former Minnesota Governor Tim Pawlenty, who ran in 2012, and former Governor of Arkansas Mike Huckabee, who ran for president in 2008 and 2016. I want to get your quick reaction to the speech so we can make sure we get to the growing calls for President Joe Biden to step aside as candidate. Starting with you, Governor Pawlenty, good morning. How would you rate the former president's speech last night?
I would rate it very positively. The Republican base is energized and unified. That's a really important piece. But another important piece is, what does it mean for those persuadable voters in swing states? And I think his more reflective, thoughtful tone last night, even though he did go off script and do some of the classic Trump stuff as well, sent a signal that perhaps this is a improved and more reflective and thoughtful Donald Trump. And I think that will help with those persuadable voters in swing states. Yeah, and we'll be starting to get more polling in that's come out post assassination attempt and post-speech very soon. Governor Huckabee, give us your grade. How will voters respond?
I thought he had the right tone, especially in the beginning part of the speech. He had to address the assassination attempt, and he did that with a great sense of grace and class. And like Governor Pawlenty said, by the way, hi, Tim, good friend for a long time. I thought that even when he went off script, he was classic Donald Trump. Nobody expected him not to be. But the heart of his speech really was in the beginning. And so I believe that a lot of Americans saw him in a way that the press doesn't usually allow him to be seen. And that's that genuinely decent guy. And that's how many of us know him. Yeah, we know that he can be at the podium and he will pick at his opponents and he'll have some fun and he'll rock and roll. But there's another side of Donald Trump that a lot of Americans never get to see. It's the funny, it's the intense Donald Trump who really does have convictions about putting America first and making our policies work for working class Americans. Yeah, and all the organizers of the RNC have done a nice job coming up with their group of speakers to show that different side of him, for sure. Governor Pawlenty, as all of this is playing out, President Biden's campaign is now at a major crossroads. More and more talk. It seems like it's the most serious we've seen. Both of you know what it's like to run for president, how campaigns work. So, Governor Pawlenty, will it ultimately be ending Biden's campaign for president? Do you think we'll see that over the weekend or early next week, as some are speculating?
It seems that way, Anna. And I would add, it's not just that his performance in the debate. We could all see, or at least anybody with their eyes half open could see, this is somebody who has had health challenges for a long time. He is not well suited from a mental and physical strength standpoint to serve as president of the United States for the next 4 years. And the right thing for his family to do and for the country is for him to step aside. I hope he'll do that. I'm told he's quite stubborn, but it looks like the pieces are in place now for that to happen. I don't think it ultimately changes the race, because I think they're going to end up with Vice President Harris, and she's no more popular than he is, and he was going to lose the race. So I think this is in Donald Trump's hands to win, absent some big other stumble between now and November. But I don't know that it really matters in terms of the campaign, whether it's Joe Biden or Vice President Harris, unless they come up with some other plan.
Governor Huckabee, I'll let you look into your crystal ball. What do you think?
I think the hardest thing in the whole world to do, harder than getting into a race, is the decision to get out of one. It's the toughest thing ever to do. And I have a sense of sympathy for Joe Biden in having to make this decision. But when all of the leaders of his own party start telling him it's time to go, then the truth is, Anna, it's time to go. And I think it's going to be hard for him. I'm not suggesting it's easy, but at some point he has to decide whether his legacy is that he did get elected president. He beat Donald Trump in 2020. Or he can say that his legacy is that he's the punchline of every political joke in 2024. I can't imagine that anyone who loves him and is close to him wants that to be what people remember.
I think Democrats are going to be facing even more questions about who knew what when as well. Governor Mike Huckabee, Governor Tim Pawlenty, thanks for joining us on a day after a very historical speech was made there at the RNC as it's just wrapped up. Thanks again.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.